Hi, it's Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I have a fun collab for you. So I'm doing the Get to Know the Fantasy Reader book tag created by Hannah Blackwell. She invited me to join in this collab and I'm so honored. There are some amazing YouTubers also participating. I'm gonna add their channels down below. So for those YouTubers, I'm gonna read through them now. It's gonna be their Instagram handles because I'm in a group chat with them, but like their channel name will be tagged down below. So the people participating are Ava from Ava's Romance Books. I'm very hype about that. I love Ava. I get so many like novella recommendations from her. I absolutely love her. Becky from Bex Reads. She's awesome too. I've collabed with her in the past. And I actually have a collab coming out soon again with her. Obviously Hannah Blackwell. Honest Fiction, she's great. Tori from Live a Novel Life, another YouTuber I've been watching for a really long time. I think it's so cool that I'm gonna collab with her. I love all her romance recommendations. She just like, I don't know, she's just such a voracious reader and I'm just obsessed with her and I love her channel. And then some people that are kind of newer to me, Burrows and Books, Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads, Jen from The Book Refuge, and Rachel from Raven Haired Reader. I've definitely seen some of these people around, so definitely check them out. I know I'll be checking out all their videos as well. All right, so let's finally get into the tag. So the first question is, what book got you into fantasy romance for the first time? I don't know if this is cheating, but like, I think I might mix fantasy with paranormal with monster. I mean, obviously monster is fantasy, but the paranormal stuff, I don't know if it's typically considered fantasy. So if we weren't gonna consider that, and also like sci-fi, like does sci-fi count as fantasy? But if it does, like just let's like group it all into fantasy. That's how I've kind of answered these questions. So if we're counting sci-fi stuff with romance, I'd say The Host. Well, actually, even before that, I probably read Twilight, but the one that like really got me in good was The Host. I feel like I absolutely love that book, but if we're talking like classic fantasy, like with fae and things like that, like more magical, less paranormal, I'd say the first book I got into was Crescent City, which was surprising when I looked back. Like I think I read that in 2020, and I've been reading for a really long time. Like I've been reading since as long as I can remember pretty much. But obviously there's the Sarah J. Maas craze, and I really wasn't that interested in reading ACOTAR at the time because everybody's like, it's YA, and I wanted to read something more mature. So when Sarah J. Maas came out with the adult series, I picked that up first, and I thought it was okay. It's like way too long in my opinion. If you love that book, no shame, like love what you love. But it's just like really heavy on the world building and like the fantasy stuff and the mystery. And I was like, I'm just mostly here for the romance, you know, and I love the romantic parts. But yeah, overall, like 3 stars. But anyway, I think that was like the first real fantasy romance book I read. The next question is, if you could pick one fantasy world to move to for the rest of your life, which world would you move to? So I chose Cambric Creek from that Milking Farm series. Because it's just like, with fantasy, sometimes these worlds are so dangerous. Like, I don't want to live in a volatile, dangerous world where like my life's at risk all the time. And Cambric Creek is just very chill, laid back. There's like a ton of monsters around, but they're like all very peacekeeping and peaceful, and humans can get along with them fine. And yeah, maybe I'll find, you know, if I wasn't married and I was living in this fantasy world, maybe I could find like a monster husband. But I'm happily married, so. The next question is, if you could marry one bookish hero or heroine, who would it be? And I picked Griffin from A Promise of Fire. So this is a fantasy romance series or trilogy, and I read it a while ago, but I just like remember how like devoted he was to his woman, how like, I don't want to spoil it, but like how destined they were for each other and how like non-egotistical he was about things that were revealed in regard to that destiny between them. Because sometimes a lot of the time the guys think that like they need to be domineering and blah, 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 blah. But he was just like, I was made for you and I'm fucking so cool with that and I love you and I will do anything for you. And what an amazing man. Like, what a good guy. And he's not like weird with some of these other heroes that I do enjoy. You know, there are some other like fantasy or paranormal guys that I really like, but like sometimes they're like a little too much. You know what I mean? I'm trying to play it on the safer side. Griffin is fairly human, if not 100% human. I don't exactly remember. And I think that would work for me in a husband. If you could be one fantasy creature / magical being, what would you be? So for this one, I chose a werewolf. So again, it's kind of paranormal and it's not as flashy as like flying or having wings or something, but there's just like something so like classic about werewolves. I honestly love like this cuddly community that occurs in werewolf books. And even like I've been reading, I read the first book in Zodiac Academy, and the one werewolf guy, he's just so touchy-feely and he's just like a cuddly guy, even though he's a jerk. But like, I just love that. I just want to be cuddled and snuggled and all the time. So I think I would adore being in that kind of like werewolf community. So that's what I chose. If you could kill one fantasy romance character, who would you kill off? I chose King Midas from the Guild series. If you know, you know. The first book is a lot about King Midas, but he's horrible. So bye to him. What fantasy romance character do you truly believe would be your IRL best friend? Okay. This one was kind of hard because I really don't know. But if I had to choose, looking back and trying to remember some of these characters, because sometimes they all blur together or like you forget the details of them, I just said I'd go with Jamie from Wicked Cravings. This is the second book in a werewolf shifter series. I liked her because the plot of her story is that she knows she's made it to this one guy, but he thinks he's too good for her, whatever. So she's like, all right, I'm not just gonna wait around for you. I'm gonna move on with my life, date other guys, da 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 da. And I really liked that energy. Like she don't need, like she doesn't need him. And I feel like that's kind of the advice I would give a friend. Like, honey, if he's not interested, like don't waste your life waiting on him. Like, enjoy yourself. And she did that for herself anyway. So I just feel like we would probably get along. And if she thinks that way about life, maybe in other aspects, we could be on the same page and besties. But I'm saying that with not really remembering like the details of her like personality, you know what I mean? But that really stands out. The next question is, what would be your fantasy weapon of choice? And the first thing that came to mind was like mind control. Because I feel like a lot of the times, like a lot of these fae guys and things like that, or these like, I guess fae women too, but I don't know, why do I feel like it's mostly men, have mind control powers. And even like some of the vampires I've read in different stories, they can like get into the minds of people. And I just think that's a pretty good weapon. But if we were talking about like physical weapons, then I'd probably just pick like the short swords, like for 2 hands, and you just kind of like jab with 2 hands. That's my favorite weapon in Assassin's Creed, which is a like historical video game. So if I had to choose like a physical weapon, I'd do like the double swords. Who is the sexiest fantasy romance character of all time? This one was pretty easy for me to pick. I picked Death from the Four Horsemen series because, are you kidding me? Just like, I don't even know. Like the cover model, like his face is like whatever, but like the idea of him, he's this sexy god. He's literally death personified. He has all these like beautiful glowing blue tattoos, and he has huge black angel wings. That's an easy selection. That is so amazingly beautiful and epic and sexy, like 100% easy pick. The next question is, pick one fantasy romance book to burn, and I chose The Bridge Kingdom. I'm so sorry if you like that book. I know it has a lot of hype, but like I just didn't get it. I was just like really uninterested in the story. There wasn't enough steam for me, and I wasn't interested enough in the cliffhanger. Like the first book leaves off in a cliffhanger, and I didn't even care enough to continue on in the story. So if I had to burn a book, it would be that one. The next question is, you can choose one fantasy romance book. It's the only book you will ever be able to read again. What is it? So this was really hard. Like it literally says one, and then I kind of went ahead and picked 2. But like they're kind of different, right? So if I was gonna pick one that was like longer, more in depth, had like a wide span of emotions in the book, like really high happy moments and then really like dark sad moments and just like a lot of plot going on, I'd probably pick Vampire Instinct. This is in a vampire series. I think it's probably like the 7th one, but I've reread it like cover to cover a handful of times and I just love it. Like it gets pretty dark. Like our heroine has been through some serious trauma and the vampire guy that falls in love with her, he is just so amazing to her and he's so caring. He runs like a big cat sanctuary, so he's caring for the animals and things like that. So I really adore that book. But if I wanted just to pick a smutty fun time that I always have a great time rereading, I'd choose The Dragon's Bride, which is a smutty novella by Katie Roberts. Is it Katie Roberts or Katie Robert? But yeah, I reread that all the time and it's always a blast. But it's so short and it's like not that deep. So if it's the only one I'd have to read forever, like, I don't know, like it's not even that long, you know what I mean? So maybe for my one pick, I'll choose Vampire Instinct. And then the last question is, if you could recommend one fantasy romance book to a reader that was new to the genre and wanted to try it out, what book would it be? This was tough because my fantasy romance read list isn't super extensive. Like I've read obviously a fair amount, but like some of them are kind of too hardcore for a newbie, right? Like monster romance, I feel like might be too hardcore for a newbie. Some of the werewolf ones are like really intense, like the violence of them within the couple, like not like domestic violence, but just like these animalistic wolf instincts are kind of like really intense. And then the vampire series that I really enjoy has a lot of like BDSM stuff, which is like kind of intense for a newbie. So I kind of copped out and I said ACOTAR. I did end up reading the ACOTAR series. It's fine. The first one I didn't love. The second one, 4 stars, had a great time. And then the rest of them, I was like, it's too heavy on the fantasy. Can we get back to the romance? Nesta's book I did enjoy too though, but it was like way too long in my opinion, but still fun. And it's such a successful series, so for a newbie, it's a pretty much guaranteed win and a safe bet. Besides that, I would probably recommend A Promise of Fire. That series is really fun, and yeah, I had a blast with it. The ending was kind of confusing for me, honestly, but I would reread that series, and I think that's a good place to start for a newbie. Lastly, I'm gonna tag some people, so if you're watching this and you wanna do the tag, obviously join in, and I'll also be tagging some of my close booktube friends here online. Eliza, I know she reads a ton of romance, but I think they tend to lean more towards contemporary rom-com, so we'll see how much fantasy romance she's into. And then Sam, I want to tag her too. I know she reads a ton of fantasy, but not as much romance. So I'd be curious to see what her answers are as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Again, make sure to check out the other collaborators linked down in my description to see more fun tag responses to these questions. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. It really helps out my channel, and I will catch you in another video. Bye!